Welcome to More Than Just Walking podcast, where I talk about all things spinal cord injury and all my paralyzed shenanigans. This podcast is about all different aspects of living life with a spinal cord injury. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. I'm so excited because we're going to have some guests on and we're going to talk about topics about this crazy life of overcoming obstacles with a spinal cord injury. What is a spinal cord injury? Well, it's damage to the spinal cord or nerves at the end of the spinal column. A spinal cord injury can result in a sudden blow or cut to the spine. Spinal cord injuries are broken down into 5 main categories using the ASIA scale, the American Spinal Cord Injury Association. So when I was first injured, one of the main questions I got was, do you think you'll ever walk again? And to which my answer was, I hope so. But looking back, the more I think about it, there's so many things that are more important than just walking. So the number one thing I'm most thankful for, I think, is I still have my brain. And without that, nothing's getting done quick. And I still have my sense of humor, which I know you guys appreciate, which is really important after a traumatic experience because you need your sense of humor to keep things light. So yeah, hand function would be great and all. I do have, range of motion a little bit. Not as much on my right as on my left, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I can't use my fingers, but I can use my hand to hold things. So when I was injured, my C5 vertebrae broke, and it put pressure on my spinal cord. And when that happened, it wasn't severed, it was just bruised up pretty good. It did take a while for anything to come back. Slowly I started to regain more sensation below my injury level, but it kind of topped off after about 6 months or so. When I was still in the rehab hospital, I had to kind of relearn everything. At first I could only just barely twist my wrists, and it went from that to being able to just barely move my arms, and I kind of just forced myself to drive my chair. So when I was first injured and I got in my chair for the first time, they pretty much just had to set my hand on my control knob, and I could just barely push forward, left, right, whatever. And over time you build up that endurance and that strength, because at first I was super weak. I could barely sit up without getting exhausted. And because my spinal cord wasn't completely severed, like ASIA grade B, you can feel below, but I don't have any motor sensation or motor function in between my spinal cord injury level and my toes. So it's kind of funny to think about, and I don't know how this works or not, but my butthole is my most sensitive area on my body below my injury level. And I can also feel when I have to urinate. I just can't do anything about it. So like I said, there's so many more things that are more important than just walking. And one of those would be bladder and bowel function. If that returned, there'd be no more UTIs, no more bowel routines, no more digitally stimulating my butthole to use the restroom, which thankfully I don't have to do anymore, because in 2019, I received a colostomy and it's been a game changer ever since. And I'll get into more of those things in future episodes. But in this first episode, I want to hit on attitude, acceptance, and emotion. When I was first injured, I was scared. I was very scared. I was scared of the unknown. I was scared of this new life of dependency. It's a huge change, and it's a completely different life than what we're used to. Waking up to the news that you're paralyzed, it doesn't get much scarier than that. And with me, that led to a pretty dark depression. I hated the way I was. I hated my body. I hated the way I looked. How would somebody like me like this? It was a pretty dark place. Definitely a crazy roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure. At first, I really didn't want to live this way. But fortunately, I have a great support system, which I wish everyone had. And they kept me laughing. Friends and family were always there. They were always keeping me upbeat, uplifted. And they just helped keep my mind off things and help motivate me, really. And that's one of the most important things you need to remember, is surround yourself with those things that make your brain and your heart smile. So it probably took 2 years to accept the way things are. And I started to think, man, I still love life. I just look at it just a little bit lower now. I mean, yeah, things are challenging, but just like everyone, you're a natural born problem solver. Try to stay a pretty positive person. Yeah, some days are harder than others. Someone once said, you can spend 5 minutes in Pity Town, but you can't stay there. So I try to live by that. So it was really hard to relearn new things and train my body that was extremely weak. And there was a lot of pain, especially in those first few weeks and months of healing. Which takes me to autonomic dysreflexia, or AD, which you've heard me probably mention in a few other videos as well, because it's very important. AD is your body's automatic response to something going on below your injury level, usually pain. So where your spinal cord is injured, it can't let that signal get to your brain to let you know that there's pain or something's hot or cold or something like that. So what it does is makes your blood pressure spike, which can usually lead to severe headaches and things like sweating. The first time I experienced AD, I was actually at one of the fundraisers that was put on for me, and I started to get real sweaty and I started to get headaches, and I hadn't experienced that yet. And I remembered what they taught me in the hospital, which was always check your bladder, check your bowels, check your toes, check your toenails. There could be something as simple as a wrinkle in the socks or your bed sheets. You wouldn't think something as simple as a wrinkle could cause autonomic dysreflexia, but it definitely sure can. So we went into the bathroom and we did a catheter, and to my surprise is I filled the whole catheter bag all the way to the top, and that's 1100 cc's, and that's huge. I couldn't believe it. We joked and we thought we had to grab another catheter because it just wasn't stopping. I wish I could do that these days. So one thing that set me back in the beginning were contractures. Contractures are shortening of the tendon or muscles. So in the beginning, I was always cold and I only have flexion, so I can't extend because I don't have tricep muscles. I can do it with gravity, but I can't hold it up above. Does that make sense? I can't hold it out. So what I did earlier in 2022, I had a muscle contracture release where they go in and cut the scar tissue in your elbow or the joint, in my case, my elbow. They went in and took all the scar tissue out that they could, and they put me in a CPM machine. It's a continuous passive range of motion machine that brings your arm up and back out and stretches it out. He got it to a 20, but the machine was able to get me to a full 0, which is straight out, and it's still that way, and I love it. So actually tomorrow I go in for my right arm, and I hope it goes better than the first. I was scared at first because my supination hadn't returned to where I could turn my hand upside down and hold things like I used to. So my hand was just super loose and I couldn't grasp anything. Here's to hoping this arm goes just as good. I really wish I would have done that surgery early on, but they kind of put it in my head that it's extremely painful, which yeah, it was, but looking back, it wouldn't have been that bad. So take care of your body early on. Make sure you're doing your stretches, your exercises, and just take care of it. Do your due diligence and figure out what's best for you, what works best for your body. Make sure you take care of your bladder and your bowels as well, because that's very important. I don't really remember my first bout with UTIs, but over the years they've increased quite a bit. So I started recently taking D-mannose. It is a simple sugar that when it gets in your bladder, it doesn't let the bacteria adhere to the bladder wall. So it just kind of sticks to the sugar and you urinate it back out, which I think is pretty awesome. Knock on wood, so far so good. I've been on so many antibiotics throughout the years, and it's just anytime you take antibiotics, it kills the bad bacteria, but it also kills the good bacteria. So some doctors recommend taking a probiotic while you're on that antibiotic to help keep the good gut bacteria in your biome, your gut biome in check. And probably about 2009, I started getting severe spasms and horrendous back pain, lower back pain. So I went in for a x-ray to see what was going on. And they found multiple kidney stones in both kidneys. So I started doing lithotripsies. I did, I think, 2 the first year, 2 the second year. And I think in total, I'm up to 8 or 9 lithotripsies to try and break up these stones. And right now, I think my biggest stone is 2 millimeters. So they're all passable fragments, which is freaking awesome. And it probably doesn't help that I don't drink a lot of water. And for years, I only drank Sprite, which I don't recommend doing, but I think it kept my UTIs at bay because it made my urine so acidic. I know dealing with a spinal cord injury, it's very easy to become impatient. So one thing I try to do is I try to have patience And I know it's extremely frustrating dealing with a spinal cord injury and trying to do things for yourself, and you just can't. So you have to depend on others to do it. But I try to be as patient as possible. But when life puts a challenge in front of you, you have to hit it head on with everything you got. I try to live my best life every day. We only get this one life in this one round. We might as well make the best of it. Even though you've been dealt a crappy hand, life can still be fucking beautiful. You just have to see the beauty in it. If you guys have any questions or future episode ideas, you're more than welcome to leave it in the comments section below. I really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys enjoyed More Than Just Walking podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. We'll see you on the next one. What? You're still here? Awesome. Well, here's a couple more videos for you to enjoy.